What's good, YouTube? Steph here, and welcome to Theta Space. This time, I'm sharing my personal hot take on SPOCK'S beard and ranking the studio albums. So I'm going to give my personal ranking of the SPOCK'S beard discography, and here's my hot take. I'm only considering the first 6 albums, from The Light through Snow, because those are the only ones that I consider true SPOCK'S beard albums. I take the view that after Neil Morse left, even though the rest of the group had all been there from the beginning and there was nobody new coming in, it was effectively a different band and they should have picked a new name. I'd been expressing this view all the way back when Morse first left and Nick DiVirgilio took over as the frontman before Feel Euphoria was released.
But Steph,
some people told me,
they aren't a different band just because the lead singer leaves.
Which would be a fair point if Morse had only been the lead singer, but he wasn't just the lead singer. He created pretty much all the band's material until his departure. SPOCK'S beard was a band led by Neil Morse and playing the music of Neil Morse, so after his departure, when somebody else would be writing the songs, that would take them in a whole new musical direction. It's like if the Mothers had continued as a band without Frank Zappa. I mean, even Joy Division changed their name to New Order after Ian Curtis died, and they were more active participants in the songwriting than anyone in SPOCK'S beard who wasn't Neil when he left the band. And pointing that out has gotten me challenged with,
so I suppose that you agreed with Roger Waters that David Gilmour and company shouldn't have gone on using the name Pink Floyd?
My answer to that is, it's true that Waters did dominate the band's songwriting starting in the early 70s. They'd been playing and workshopping early versions of Dogs, Sheep, and Shine On You Crazy Diamonds in live sets years before those songs saw album release, as well as the entire Dark Side of the Moon epic, which was toured for over a year before they went into the studio to record it. But prior to that, everybody was contributing material except maybe Nick Mason. Let's not even talk about the Grand Vizier's Garden Party. So no, Waters was not Pink Floyd all by himself, however much he might still cling to that fantasy. Let's not talk about Dark Side Redux either. Instead, let's look at the raw data as presented on each album's songwriting credits, starting with The Light. All words and music by Neil Morse except the one-man section of the title suite, which was written by Neil and his brother Alan. So that's what, 3, maybe 4 minutes of a 15-minute track on a 56-minute album? And that's still with Neil, not Alan by himself. And considering that Return of the Horrible Catfish Man is basically the same music as One Man, I suspect that Alan just contributed some lyrics here. Next album, Beware of Darkness. Every word and note on this record is by Neil except the title track, which was by George Harrison. Nothing at all from the rest of the group, they just played it. Exhibit C, The Kindness of Strangers. All words and music by Neil Morse, except for Flow, which is by Neil Morse and Tony Ray, whoever the hell that is, not part of the band. Day for Night, Exhibit D. The only part not composed entirely by Neil Morse is Can't Get It Wrong, 4 minutes out of over an hour, and it's a collaboration between Neil, Alan, and Nick. Exhibit E. The fifth album has Thoughts Part 2 by Neil and Alan, and Revelation by Neil, Alan, Nick, and Rio. That's a greater ratio than on any previous record, but still just 11 minutes out of 60. And I'm sure Neil did the real heavy lifting in the writing of these songs. And Exhibit F, Snow. Neil's concept, Neil's words and music, Neil's album. The contributions by the rest of the group are fewer than ever. The whole band is credited on Second Overture / 4th of July, and Solitary Soul is another Morse Brothers joint. Interestingly, this is the first record since Beware of Darkness to have a track with 0 Neil Morse credit, Nick DiVirgilio's Looking for Answers, which I find hilarious because one day when I was listening to Snow while driving in the car with Nancy, that's the track that was playing when she asked me, is this Christian rock? One more word on Snow before I rest my case. My friend Jim Harrell, a CalProg promoter who also hosts the Papa J's Matinee radio show on Delicious Agony and is personally acquainted with members of SPOCK'S beard, told me way back around the time of Snow's release that he got to hear the original demos for Snow that Neil played all the parts on, and it sounded pretty close to what the band ended up recording and releasing. That alone is a pretty strong argument that SPOCK'S beard is Neil Morse and Neil Morse is SPOCK'S beard. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, and the prosecution rests. So, having my position established, I acknowledge that there are 2 other bands that have used the name SPOCK'S beard. I call them Nick's Beard and Enchanted Beard. I can't honestly say what I think about them because I only listened to Feel Euphoria 2 or 3 times and I didn't like it enough to continue following the group. I didn't even know they had a new lead singer, Ted Leonard from Enchant, until I watched Pete Pardo's ranking of the SPOCK'S Beard albums, and I'll probably look into those records because, well, I haven't heard a lot of Enchant. I did like what I heard. Come to that, I should probably see if Nick's beard got better on their next records that came after Feel Euphoria. Anyway, those bands operated by the name SPOCK'S Beard, and while I think they should have done otherwise, I don't lose any sleep over it. I just consider them different bands, and I group their albums accordingly. So here's my ranking of the 6 SPOCK'S Beard studio albums, starting at the bottom with Snow. I just can't with this album. This is Neil Morse basically doing with SPOCK'S Beard what Kerry Livgren did with Kansas, taking the band in a Christian music direction instead of going off and just doing his thing by himself. We get a story about this messianic figure whose superpower is that he can sense a person's inner trauma and heal it for them. He's basically Cybok from Star Trek V. And it didn't need to be 2 discs. I mean, some of the second half is musically interesting, but not enough of it. And I have no use for the first disc at all. I think it's musically pretty pedestrian. The music's just there to support the lyrics that tell a story that I just don't care about. Enough about Snow. Number 5 slot, I've got The Kindness of Strangers. It kind of hurts to put this one so low because Harm's Way is my top favorite SPOCK'S Beard song ever. But that and the True Believer part of Flow are really all this album has as far as I'm concerned. I can lose all the rest. The Good Don't Last, Strange World, Mouth of Madness, Cakewalk on Easy Street, June. I could lose all those tracks and never miss them. I couldn't even really tell you why I don't like those tracks. I mean, they're not as boring as most of Snow, but they just don't click with me for whatever reason. Number 4 is The Light, the first album that I can say that I actually like. This is a good record, but not a great one. The 2 epics are just okay, and not as good as At the End of the Day or The Great Nothing. Even Time Has Come on the next album surpasses these easily. Of the 2, I think The Water is the better track, and the other standout on this record is Go the Way You Go. Moving into the upper half, Beware of Darkness takes the bronze medal. It's like The Light, but better. The reworking of George Harrison's song reminds me of the way that Yes played cover songs on their first 2 albums. And the rest of this one's great too. Thoughts, The Doorway, Walking on the Wind, Time Has Come. The only one that I'm really lukewarm on is Waste Away. Silver goes to Day for Night. I just think this one is solid all the way through. My favorite is Crack the Big Sky, but I also have big love for Gibberish, Skin, the title track, and the big epic The Healing Colors of Sound is pretty good too. Which means 5 wins the gold. Just on the strength of At the End of the Day and The Great Nothing, this is my favorite Beard album, and if the other tracks aren't quite up to the same level, I don't knock points off for them either. They're all good, and I don't hit skip on them. So there's my ranking of SPOCK'S Beard. I might go back and listen to the 4 Nick's Beard records, and if I do that, I'll give them a ranking as well. Or maybe I'll check out the last 3 with Ted Leonard before that. So what do you think? I'm sure you have opinions. So let me have it in the comments. Also, please smash like if you up and hit the subscribe button and notification bell. They don't cost anything. See you the next time. Steph out. Peace.